easy, but we can always share some ditties. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to rhyme. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome guys, Miss Liz in the house, and we have the incredible Shannon Fernando-Rubera in the house, and we're going to be talking about Alabaster International. I think I'm saying it right. If not, I will get her to mention it, but we're going to talk about the incredible work that she's doing with that, and we're going to talk about her tea. And her tea today is transformation, empowerment, and action. We're going to talk about a bunch of things, and we're going to bring some awareness to a lot of food programs, agroforestry initiatives. We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff, so we're going to have lots of fun tonight on Tea Time. But before we get started, you guys know how Miss Liz rolls. Get over to all those platforms: Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram, Clapper, Lemonade, all those good platforms. Give those a like, follow, and subscribe. And if you notice that the guests are on those platforms, give them a follow as well, because that's how we support one another, right? Is by following and supporting one another. Then jump over to the podcast apps: Podbean, iHeartRadio, Listen Notes, Deezer, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all those good platforms. And if I haven't mentioned some that you know of, Miss Liz is on there too. So check those out. Give those a like, follow, and subscribe, because these tea times do make a difference for the guests and for people who resonate with the stories and who are looking for different services and organizations that they might not be aware of. Also, jump over to babyboomers.org if you're looking to be pitched onto different podcasts and Miss Liz has not got the flavor that you're looking for, or you want extra flavor. There's 50 different podcasts plus on babyboomers.org, and Miss Liz has been partnered with them for about 4 years. So check them out as well. Pitch over and get yourself seen on their platforms as well, because I love supporting my co-workers and collaborators over there as well. So give them a like and follow and subscribe. So let's get into the disclaimer and then a beautiful intro, and then we're going to get Shannon in here. We're going to have some fun with all of you guys tonight. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicating to sharing real life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. I'm Miss Liz is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experiences and is perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guests, viewers, and participants are responsible for using their own good judgment when considering any action or decision that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotionally triggering subjects. Listeners' and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of the discussion, you are welcome to contact me, aka Miss Liz, directly at my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com or visit my link tree at Miss Liz's Tea Time. By choosing to participate in, comment on, or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. I, Miss Liz, welcomes you to join the conversation with an open heart, and if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect your wishes and decision and welcome you back whenever you are ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. Well, welcome to Tea Time with Miss Liz, where every conversation reminds us that leadership is not just about having a vision. It is about taking that vision into communities, listening to real needs, and turning compassion into meaningful action. Today, we are honored to welcome Shannon Fernando-Rubera, family nurse practitioner, TEDx speaker, humanitarian leader, and founder and CEO of Alabaster International. Originally from Sri Lanka and now based in Los Angeles, Shannon has built a remarkable path of service that reaches across borders and communities. Through Alabaster International, she leads in innovational initiatives focus on food security, healthcare access, community resilience, and sustainable change. Her work is rooted in a belief that lasting impact does not come from temporary solutions alone. It comes from empowering people, strengthening systems, and creating opportunities that allow communities to thrive. Shannon brings together healthcare, leadership, advocacy, and humanitarian service in a way that turns ideals into action. Today, we'll explore the journey that led Shannon into healthcare and humanitarian leadership, the mission behind Alabaster International, building a sustainable solution around food security and healthcare, strengthening communities through education and collaboration, what global services has taught her about resilience, and the responsibility leaders carry when serving vulnerable communities. Shannon reminds us that the real impact is not measured only by how many people we reach. It is measured by whether the work we do leaves people stronger, more supported, and better equipped for tomorrow. So grab your favorite cup and join us for a powerful conversation filled with healthcare, humanitarian leadership, resilience, purpose, and real life tea, truth, experience, and awareness. And let me get Shannon in here and spill some tea with you guys. Welcome, Shannon.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
We got you. Here we go. We got you.
Great. Hi.
Welcome, Shannon.
Thank you.
So, Shannon, before we get started on all the incredible work that you do, tell us a little bit about who you were as a little girl and who you are now.
Oh, thank you so much. So I was born in Sri Lanka, and I actually moved when I was age of 2 to the Cook Islands with my parents, as my dad worked for the United Nations at the time, and he was stationed there. So I grew up in Polynesian culture, and then had the opportunity to visit the United States, and then was sponsored here by a school. My mom's a teacher, and so immigrated here when I was 7. So that's how I got my start here in the U.S., carrying with me the cultures of Sri Lanka and Cook Islands as I came here.
So, Shannon, tell us a little bit about who you are today.
So I'm a family nurse practitioner by profession. I've devoted my career to serving those on the margins, those with decreased access to healthcare that may be facing inequitable access to healthcare as well. I do that work in Los Angeles as well as globally through Alabaster International, the nonprofit that I started in 2012.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about 2012. What happened in 2012 that you started this?
So in 2006, actually, I graduated from UCLA and I applied to medical school, and I got rejected from all 13 schools, and decided to actually move to Kenya with a friend of mine and live there amongst the communities in Kibera, which at the time was one of the largest informal settlements in Africa. And it was there that I fell in love with Africa and also felt called to go back into the profession of nursing. So I came back and went through nursing school and then NP school. And out of that time, felt that I wanted to actually go back and do work in Africa. So I started Alabaster International, first as a healthcare organization, and now it has expanded to include in nutrition and education as well.
Yeah, we're going to get into some of those programs tonight. I want to understand a little bit more on how you got the name. Like, how did you create the name? Because did I say correctly when I mentioned it?
Close, Alabaster. Yeah. Yeah. So the name actually is from a biblical story in the book of Luke, in one of the Gospels, and there's a woman that approaches Jesus with an alabaster jar of perfume, and she breaks it. And it's said to be the most costly thing she owns, and she breaks it on the feet of Jesus in an act of worship. And he honors that act in front of everyone, especially all the men in the crowd at that time. This was a woman that was said to be sinful, and Jesus uplifted her and honored her act of worship. And so I am a Christian by faith, and so really Alabaster was my way of giving back worship to God, and also uplifting women. The focus of our organization is on Indigenous women and families. So that story really encompasses our values and what we hope to do in communities.
I like that you brought in the book of Luke, because Luke is not one part of the Bible that is spoken about a lot.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so it's a cool. We are not a faith-based organization, but a lot of our, and we, that's intentional because we want to make sure no one feels that they have to adhere to a certain faith to receive and participate in our programs. That being said, again, a lot of our values are based in that faith and in that story, and that's why we named it Alabaster.
Well, we got a question here from Anita, and it is, what an inspiring conversation. How did the inset project first begin in Kenya?
Yeah, thanks so much. That's a great question. So NSET was really an idea that what came out of a breaking point. Actually, I was caring for patients myself and my team through Alabaster in Kenya, particularly in 2020 and 2021, and we started seeing the impact of the pandemic and on drought and climate change on communities, and they started facing famine conditions for the first time that we had been there. We've been working there since 2012. And it was really a breaking point we reached where we had to ask ourselves, was there something more resilient and sustainable that we could provide communities other than just short-term food aid to support them with their nutrition and overall just hunger? And that's led us to a journey to Ethiopia, where NSET is indigenous. And it was through the generosity of Ethiopia and the teams there on the ground, we were able to garner an agreement between Ethiopia and Kenya to share NSET. It's a banana-like drought-tolerant crop with Kenya. And now NSET is thriving in Kenya as also being scaled throughout Ethiopia, because that is the agreement we made between the two nations. So that's the start. It was really out of this desperation for something more for communities. And now over 10,000 farmers are impacted every year between the two nations through our NSET programs. Thanks for the question.
When I did some research on you, Shannon, I found 4 locations. So Kenya was the first one that you started in?
Yeah,
and
we started.
You went to Sri Lanka and then South Sudan and Ethiopia, right?
Ethiopia. Yeah. So we started in Kenya, and then actually we went to Ethiopia next, and then South Sudan, and then Sri Lanka was most recent. Yeah.
So we have a question that came in from Marcus, and it is, what role can young leaders play in food security?
It's such an important question. I would say in our programs, what we've seen is engaging the youth early on is really important and really sensitize them to the importance of agriculture, food security, sustainable practices that are not just dependent on short-term food aid. So what we do as part of our programs is we engage students by planting NSET nurseries, as an example, in school gardens. And so that way we involve the students in the work, and they become ambassadors really of this work. And then that spreads to the wider community. And we've done the same actually in South Sudan, where we planted jackfruit, avocado, and mango trees in school gardens. And the youth are the ambassadors of the trees. And now, seeing the success and with the youth really championing that, the larger community has asked for seedlings, and we've been able to start to distribute those as well.
So where can people help, like to donate? Like, are you looking for donations, like for seedlings and stuff that you can send to those countries? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so we are always looking for supporters and people who can give financially or through other resources, particularly to scale our food security programs and our health programs, because those are just ongoing needs that will always be there in communities. So whether that's providing seedlings to community members, planting more NSET nurseries, providing mobile medicine to communities that are cut off from healthcare. So you can go to our website, alabasterinternational.org, and that has all of a donate page where you can give financially. And we have a gala coming up in Costa Mesa, California on September 12th. From 4 to 7 p.m. And we would love to host people there. And tickets are on sale through our website as well. The gala is called Etched. And it's really this idea that the night is about remembering people's stories and remembering the resilience, the power, the beauty that becomes available when we partner alongside communities. And so we're really excited to have folks there, and we warmly welcome you.
So is this an annual event that you're doing, or?
This is actually our first ever gala.
Oh, well, there you go, guys. Go buy a ticket. Like, get out there and get a ticket.
Yeah, so it's a big milestone for us. So, so we're really excited about having it, executing it on September 12th. Yeah.
Well, and we're going to keep talking about September 12th because she's only got 35 tickets left, guys. So go and get those tickets. Like, this is going to be an event. If it's your first one, it's always the best when it's the first.
Oh, thank you for that encouragement. Yeah.
Because it breaks the water, right? You're breaking the water. You're breaking the ice. And then people can say, well, are we going to do it again next year?
Yeah,
you know?
It's their hope. Yeah. Yeah, we'll have live cultural entertainment, and we'll have good food, and there'll be storytelling. We're premiering a mini documentary about NSET and our work. So it'll be a really beautiful time. Yeah.
I wish I was closer because I get a ticket and I would go. I'm in Canada, so I'm pretty far. Yeah. Well, Shannon, we have another question for you, and it's: how has your experience as a family nurse practitioner influenced the way you approach humanitarian work?
I would say the nursing, the core of my work is a nurse, really, and I love that because as a nurse, it's really a hands-on, on the ground, in the trenches sort of profession, and that's really informed the work because I'm not making decisions and we're not implementing programs from some boardroom somewhere, but we're actually doing that where we get on the ground with people and co-design, co-dream programs together. And so my nursing background has really informed that because it keeps that human-centered focus in the work at all times, because I'm approaching it from that nursing lens where we are ultimately about the people and the community's agenda and not our own agenda. And so I'm so grateful that I ended up pursuing the nursing route, actually, because it's really helped inform the humanitarian work on the ground, particularly that proximity and intimacy that you have with communities.
Well, and because you're in that nursing field, right? You're a people person already, so you're easy to work with.
I try my best.
Well, we have another question here coming in from Bargain Homes, and it's: what did you learn from the communities you worked with that changed your own perspective?
I would say, I've learned so much. They are my most formative teachers, really. I would say the thing I learned the most is how to be resilient in the face of challenges and even entrenched chronic things that are constantly challenging communities. And I would say that there's a gratitude from which communities live from and in that is so powerful. And what I've learned from them that's changed my mindset has been, I constantly look at things from a scarcity mentality. And it's very easy when you're with communities that are suffering to see all the lack. But what communities have taught me is that actually when people come together and we're a community, there's actually abundance and resource available. And that spurs a gratitude from which communities live on a daily basis that makes them thankful for even the little they may have, and then also allows them to share that little because they realize that it doesn't just belong to them. And that's really shifted my perspective, because now when I look at situations, let's say fundraising, I can see all that we haven't reached yet. But there also is so much support and beauty when people are coming together to care for communities through our work. And so I'm living with a much more stance of gratitude and thankfulness because of the communities on the ground.
Well, Shannon, you mentioned something: communities and abundance. We don't talk about the abundance when community does come together, right?
Yeah.
We just think it's everyone's united and coming together, but we don't talk about the abundance and the effects of coming together and giving and supporting one another, that it really does a ripple effect. And it does open doors, because when community comes together, there's different ideas that come to the table, different perspectives come to the table, different organizations can join together. There's partners that come in. Have you worked with some of your partners that you've worked with? Have they come in and said, Shannon, if we do this, it might open that?
Absolutely. The core of why our programs and our interventions are successful is because of our local partners on the ground, whether that's Arborman's University in Ethiopia, or Girl Child Network in Kenya, or Unidor in South Sudan, or Live, Love, and Give in Sri Lanka. These are all core community organizations and universities that support our work and make sure that our programs are localized so that they can be owned and ultimately run and led by communities. So it's not about us, but it's really about them. So we're so grateful for our partners, and they actually make this work possible.
Absolutely. Well, we got somebody who knows your tea, so they've done their homework. Thanks for that, Antone. That transformation, empowerment, and action tea is beautiful. So let's talk about your tea, because a lot of my listeners want to know about this tea that Miss Liz serves. So we're going to serve your tea, and your tea is transformation, empowerment, and action. Why'd you give me those 3 words?
Yeah, I would say the first word, transformation, is really this idea that growth is important in our work. We want to see communities grow. We want to see things expand. But when we talk about transformation, we're talking about something brand new. We're talking about something unprecedented. And so for me, when we look at transformation, we actually want to be doing things that perhaps have never been done before and that are innovative, so that we can spark something brand new in communities unto wholeness, unto dignity, right? Unto this idea that they can thrive. And so that's why I chose transformation, because it's not just about growth and expansion, but it's about transforming an entire mindset as well as the resources. So it's dual in that way. And then should I move to the next?
The next one was empowerment.
Empowerment, yeah. I would say empowerment's important because we always come into a community with the mentality that they've been surviving way before we got there. They have all the resilience and what they need to live. And what we're doing is coming alongside them and with them identifying gaps from which they can continue to grow and capacity build what's already on the ground. So it's not that we're bringing in some magic solution, but oftentimes what they need is already there. It's about shedding light on it or capacity building it. And so what we mean by empowerment is that it's truly community centered, and we're not coming in with this prescriptive model. We're coming in with this sense of, okay, we're listeners. We're coming with humility. What can we learn? And then how can we co-design things together? So that's the empowerment piece.
I really, when you say transformation, the growth and the branding and mindset, we've never really talked about transformation in that way. And empowerment, like opening the mind to understand, and planting seeds and the empowerment of coming together. The last word that you gave me was action. So you're an action girl. So tell me a little bit about the action.
Yeah. So, I mean, sometimes when we talk about community development, it's a lot of it is about theory and programs and visioning, and that's beautiful and it's so needed. But if that doesn't actually translate to actual results and things shifting on the ground, actual actions that we're taking, the ways that we have to sacrifice sometimes, whether that's time, resources, and for some places we go to, there's some danger involved. And so part of that action is being willing to come out of comfort zones and to sacrifice whatever is needed to care for and be with communities. And so that action piece is important because it's not just about insight, but it's ultimately about a measurable change that we can see on the ground.
Well, we have a question here from Rochelle, and Rochelle says, what role does collaboration play when tackling something as complex as global food security?
Yeah, it's collaboration, I would say, is so important because it flies in the face of competition. And that's really important because oftentimes you'll find, especially in the NGO sector and partners working together, that it can become territorial, and we're all sometimes seeking after the same pot of resources. And so sometimes it can feel like we're against each other. But the truth is we actually have to be for each other and see each other as allies. And that is the way that big complex situations like hunger will actually shift and change. And we've seen that with the stakeholders from Kenya and Ethiopia coming together, bridging their own cultural differences. Here is 2 border nations. We have a lot of nations that are bordering one another that are in conflict right now. But here was an example of bordering nations coming together and saying, hey, you have something we don't have. You have something we don't have. Let's join forces, Africans helping Africans, and for the benefit of our people and for the benefit of food security for both countries. And so I would say it requires that level of diplomacy and a willingness to see each other as allies in order to actually see something shift in complex situations.
Absolutely. Well, we have a question here from Nick, and it is: what was there a particular moment when you realized this humanitarian work had become your calling?
I love that question. I would say caring for communities, particularly through healthcare, has always been my calling. Even as I was a child, my mom would tell me that that was just something I always talk about: being with people, help being at their in their most vulnerable moments. And I think humanitarian work really became a calling when I was in Kenya, right after the rejections from medical school, living in Kibera. And I learned from the women on the ground there, and I saw their immense resilience and the way they faced challenges but also needed support. And it was there that I realized that my calling was really to do whatever I could to come in to support in filling those gaps alongside them, and as a partner. And so I would say that's when I really realized it was part of who I'm supposed to be long term. Yeah.
Well, Shannon, I want to talk about some of the programs that you have, but I want to start with the Rise model. Could you tell us a little bit about what the Rise model is?
Yeah, so essentially, that is our model of community transformation, to use the word. And essentially, it's this idea that we do things in a stepwise approach, and it's important that we come in with infrastructure that doesn't feel haphazard, but actually has some evidence behind it and a model that communities can understand. And so, essentially, starting with listening and coming in and learning from the leaders on the ground, learning asset mapping, essentially, which is looking at where are assets already there, where are the victories, right? Not just looking at where the gaps and the needs are. And then coming out of those listening sessions, then building alongside communities from that has been very, very successful for us, because then there's automatic community buy-in and ownership. And so it's not ultimately about how committed we are. It's actually how committed we are as a collective, right? So it's and with them at the center. And so that's part of that model, is this stepwise approach of listening and then co-building and then of course co-implementing. We make sure that when we implement programs, there is contributions from all sides, whether that's our local partner and even the community, even if it's something small that they can contribute. So oftentimes it's not, it's actually quite big. They contribute land, they contribute their own farmers or whatever the situation may be, but we all are coming together to contribute. So that's also a key part of the model. And then finally evaluating the results. So again, not being afraid to look at what we've actually accomplished, because sometimes we have an idea of what we've accomplished and that it doesn't always match what's actually
Yeah.
happening on the ground. So being unafraid to look at that and see, okay, is what I intended calibrated with what's actually been implemented. So that's the overview of that model.
Well, it kind of gives you an insight if it's working or not working, right?
Absolutely. And I'm really proud to say that that model really came from being on the ground. Like, it's not something we read in a book somewhere, although that's fine. But it's really something that we learned over these last 14 years of doing this work.
Well, Shannon, being on the ground, you see it for yourself, right? You
Yeah,
see where the changes need to be made and where this could work a little bit better than this location could work, right?
absolutely.
Before we went live, you said you have 12 schools, but your goal is to have 43. So tell us a little bit about the schools.
Yeah, so that is our Roots and Wings program. Roots meaning we focus on education as the basis. That's the roots part of the program. And Wings is the idea that when we have education as our basis, we can dream and reach for the stars, so to speak. And so that's the Wings portion of our program. And Roots and Wings is essentially four pillars. It's establishing tree planting initiatives with students. It's providing essential school supplies. It's leadership and debate trainings for students. And I'm forgetting our fourth one for some reason. I think I put the debate and leadership together. Those are separate. Oh, no. And reading clubs. The fourth is the reading clubs and establishing libraries. And so those pillars together make up the roots and the wings that we want to particularly implement in conflict affected or impoverished parts of Africa. So our Roots and Wings programs are in Kenya and South Sudan. It's most active in South Sudan. And we have Roots and Wings programs operating in 12 schools right now. now in South Sudan. That actually was recent. We launched a Groundbreakers campaign in May, and we were only in 3 schools, and we were able to expand to 12. But our goal is all 43 in the county of Lear, which is the area we work in South Sudan. So that's where we're at with our Roots and Wings program. And that's the education arm of our work. And actually, that was really birthed out of working with women. We essentially were focused on health and nutrition, and that's still our main focus areas. But as we were working with women, and as is the case, they were like, help our children first and then help us. And so this was really birthed out of their request and their vision. And so we added in this educational piece that's become quite big in a part of our programming.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. I am so proud to have you at this table. Like, I love when you bring education to the table. I'm a big junkie on education. Like, I really want kids to have what all the kids are to have, right? Not just in the United States or Canada. I want all children to have education and have the, be able to dream and have their goals in that as well.
And what's amazing about our Roots and Wings program is with just $5, we can send one child to school for an entire year to provide them with essential school supplies for 1 year. And this is in South Sudan. And so it's such a small amount for us in the West to think, okay, if I just give $5, one child can go to school for 1 year. And so we encourage actually monthly giving for these programs, because let's say you give $5 a month, and that's actually 12 children a year, right, that you're able to support and going to school. And these are children that are facing extreme weather. They're experiencing conflict in parts of South Sudan, and they still show up even in 100-degree weather, sometimes without classrooms. They sit under the tree and they learn. And it's so beautiful to see their eagerness and their perseverance. And so the little that we can do to provide them with these programming for what they're already doing to show up is such a powerful reminder of that collaboration. So we are so grateful when people decide to support our Groundbreakers campaign for the Roots and Wings program.
I think that's amazing. $5. You pay $5 for a cup of coffee now.
Yeah.
Like, and you can make a difference in a child's life.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely. I'm going to look more into that.
Oh, thank you.
Prophet Power has a question for you. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced when introducing a new agriculture approach across communities and countries?
Yeah, such an insightful question. I would say the first thing, the biggest challenge I would say is this acceptability of the new agricultural innovation in communities, because we didn't want to do all this work to introduce a new crop and then it to once again feel like this top-down approach where communities just have to accept something without actually wanting it and understanding it and enabling it to be assimilated into their own way of life and traditions, and particularly their eating and their food traditions. And so we spent quite a bit of time doing sensitization programs in Kenya in particular, and even in communities in Ethiopia that had not yet been eating NSET. We went in and we conducted these listening sessions, cooking demonstrations. They got to smell and touch and experience the crop for themselves and ask questions. And it was never this, hey, we're bringing this, deal with it. It was always, do we have your permission to introduce this in your community, because this is the benefits, it's drought tolerant, it's nutritious. And so I think that those sensitization campaigns were the most challenging, but the most effective, because it takes time to go from community to community to conduct these sessions. And we have to be ready for people to say, no, we're not comfortable. And that's okay. People should have the right to say no. Right. And so I would say that piece of bridging the cultural differences as well as the new, right, the unprecedented part of this work was the biggest challenge. In addition to, of course, the diplomatic challenges at the beginning between working with two different nations coming together. There's a lot of justifiable regulations around sharing indigenous resources. And so we had to honor that on the Ethiopia side and, of course, the Kenya side as well. And that was really important. The Ethiopian Biodiversity Institute played a huge role in making sure we followed the regulations to making that transfer possible of this new agricultural innovation. And it took some time, but we were grateful because we're become a really close team now. So.
Well, and I think it shows respect, right? You're coming in and you're asking instead of just dropping it and saying, we're going to do it this way,
Yes.
because then that's when the community kind of blocks up and puts the barriers up and you have that disagreement and you have that division, right? But when you're asking, would you guys like to see this come into your community? How can we make a difference in your community? Have that open conversation with the different communities and see what works and what doesn't work,
Yes. And I think it was important because NSAID is not something Alabaster discovered, right? I mean, this is a precious indigenous resource that communities have been using and farming in southern Ethiopia for generations. And so it's not like we all of a sudden discovered it. It's something that they allowed us, with their permission, to come in and learn about, and through their generosity allowed us then to share it with their neighbor, right, across the border. And so that's such a beautiful example of that permission. Actually, my TEDx talk that's soon to come out, it talks all about that. It's actually called the permission principle, and this idea of the solutions to hunger actually exist already with these, especially with these indigenous unknown crops. And essentially our job is to take the time to go into communities and, with their permission, learn from them, and then ask them how we can scale it to other communities.
Well, let's talk about the TED Talk, because it's coming soon. It's not out yet, but it's coming. So when can people find that TED Talk come?
So my understanding, it'll come out hopefully sometime this year. I delivered it in March, and so shout out to TEDx Beverly Grove and the producer Marvin Acuna. They were an amazing team, and so we were told that it takes time for TEDx to get these talks out. There's so many amazing talks out there. So my hope is that it'll be out before the end of this year, and I'll of course be announcing it and sharing it. But there has been a press release. And it's on our website as well with a preview of it, so you can hear a little bit more about what I talk about.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on the TED Talk.
Thank you. Thank you.
The next, we have a common question, being recognized by organizations such as the Clinton Global Initiative and the U.S. Department of State is impressive. But what stands out most is the human impact behind those achievements. What achievement stands out the most to you?
I think, to be honest, it's seeing NSET growing in a new country and seeing the farmers that are impacted by it. For us, it's, again, I believe Charlotte is the name. The point is, it's really about the human impact and how communities are experiencing transformation and empowerment. And so for us, as long as we see communities happy, thriving, joyful, no longer hungry, that's really the thing that we're most proud of. And so we're so grateful to CGI and the U.S. State Department and all the other partners that have recognized our work. We're it's been such a gracious journey, and we're so grateful for that. And the thing that impacts us most and keeps us going is seeing the impact on the ground. So so I would say that, and then all of our healthcare programs that we've established over these years are also something that we're really proud of.
Well, we have another question that came in, and it's, how do you measure whether a humanitarian project is creating lasting change rather than simply providing short-term relief?
Yeah, I would say, and this is a learning process for us as well, I would say the way we know it's creating lasting change is that if it can operate without us having to be there and to fund it long term. So that's what makes it truly sustainable, is that if we can establish something and then it sustains itself, and the community says, this is now mine, and we are actually no longer needed. So Alabaster's model is really, we're not really trying to go to all these places and put our logo everywhere and make it kind of the Alabaster show. We see ourselves as yeast. So, when you put a yeast into a loaf of bread, again, I'm not a baker, but my understanding is you put yeast.
You just rise it.
You don't actually see the yeast, right? You don't taste it. Right? And so it's this idea that we come in and we catalyze what's already there. We capacity build, we bring in the new, the innovative things that communities would also like to adopt. We co-design those together. And then eventually we hand it back over to communities and the local government, and then they run it. And so that, to me, is when we know it's actually long-term and not just short-term aid. And we saw that in Kenya. When we first went to this community called Andonyo Lasho, they didn't have any healthcare. They were walking 15 hours to the nearest hospital or clinic for medical care. I mean, women were giving birth, on the way, walking. And so we came in as a healthcare organization. We started doing mobile medicine, but the communities quickly told us we need something more permanent here. And so together with the community and our partner Girl Child Network in Kenya, we established a maternity center and a medical clinic there. And then after a few years of running it, for them, we handed it over to the government. And now, since 2015, it's been running on its own, and the government funds it, sends medication, sends a worker full-time to staff the clinic. And now the community has care 24/7. So just an example of that true adoption and ownership that makes things long-term and sustainable.
Well, I really like that, Shannon, that you're just the yeast, because a lot of people want to come in and just put logos all over the place, right? They just want to put these stamps all over the place, but they don't want to just step back.
Yeah.
So I like that you're the yeast.
Thank you.
I've never called any of my guests the East, but you know what? Shannon's good Easter. She rises good bread here.
I know. I wish I actually knew how to make bread, but yeah.
Well, we have another question here from Layla, and it's where do you see the biggest opportunities for innovation in food security?
I would say two things. First, indigenous crops. There are way more NSET type crops out there that we don't even know about, that indigenous communities have been treasuring and relying on and utilizing for their food security and for agriculture. And so I would say taking the time to fund research that looks at underutilized crops, that goes out into communities with their permission to see what kinds of indigenous crops they're growing. I would say that's the number one innovation, in my opinion. And the second is to empower female farmers. So female smallholder farmers are the ones that are responsible for most of our food production across the world. And so giving them the tools they need, whether that's digital tools, whether that's monetary resources, whether that's seedlings, training, whatever it may be, and really empowering them and letting them lead the fight from the ground of, hey, what are the innovations that are working for you? Women we work with in Ethiopia, I mean, they have these amazing innovations of for example, putting sawdust on plants to keep away pests. The kind of manure they use, so it's not chemical pesticides, it's just organic. They have all of these innovations that they're doing just from being responsible for feeding their families and their communities. And so asking them those questions, empowering them, giving them a forum to share those, I think is an incredible innovation and an untapped resource in some ways. And we recently launched a mobile app called NSET AI with Ethiopian farmers, majority women. And they've taken that, and because of their own innovation and the capacity build of this app, they planted over 62,000 new NSET trees across their community in Ethiopia. And so just an example of when you empower women and you give them the tools, it's miraculous what's possible.
So tell me a little bit about that NSET AI. What is that?
Yeah, so it's a mobile app that we developed in conjunction with our amazing partner, Deep Impact AI and Arborman's University. And so we came together and we thought about, okay, what do farmers really need to be able to scale this beautiful crop and other indigenous crops? So we're hoping to add in other crops as well to the app. We're starting with NSET. And so we developed this and we launched it December of 2025. It's now being used by over 350 farmers throughout Ethiopia. And we have these NSET AI ambassadors, which are lead farmers that are going around and helping other farmers through the app plant more and more trees and identify diseases so they can manage diseases more quickly for their plants so that they don't lose the crop and the harvest and ultimately their food source. So it's been a really successful model, and a huge thank you to Deep Impact and Arborman's University.
Oh, we learned so much with these tea times, right, guys? Tell me a little bit about the food programs.
Yeah, so we have a couple. The main pioneer flagship food program is our NSET Ambassador Food Sovereignty Program, which I've talked about extensively. This idea of empowering female farmers to plant more NSAID throughout Ethiopia and Kenya. The other food program we have is our tree planting initiatives in South Sudan, particularly around jackfruit. So as a Sri Lankan, I grew up eating jackfruit, and it's a highly nutritious crop. And just one tree can feed an entire village. And so we actually introduced jackfruit to South Sudan. They had some experience with it, but it had never been grown in this particular community of Lear. And the community was open to it. The farmers were excited to try it. So we, again, started it in school gardens, and now we're distributing it to communities as a food source. So that's our food program in South Sudan, and then the food program in Kenya and Ethiopia. And then we also, when the need arises, we do implement school feeding programs. So providing a school lunch to children, so because hungry children cannot learn. And so that's something that we also do, particularly in Kenya, for communities that are impacted by food insecurity.
Wow. Tell me what jackfruit is, because I've never heard of jackfruit.
Yeah, so jackfruit, I mean, it's full of starch. So you can eat it in two different ways. If you let it ripen, it's more of like a fruit where it's actually sweet. But if you eat it like more on the raw side, it's actually like it's an alternative for some vegetarians. That's like a pulled pork. It's similar to that in that it's stringy and it's starchy, so it's a really good source of carbohydrates and calories, and it keeps you really full. I was just in Sri Lanka last month, and I ate a ton of jackfruit, so I have a fond place for it in my own heart. But it's just been a buffer against hunger and food insecurity, particularly in South Asian countries like Sri Lanka. And so we are really excited that the South Sudanese partners that we worked with were open to learning more about it.
So Shannon, is there any foods or crops that we might not know of in the United States and Canada that are grown in those countries?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I would say in Ethiopia, a big one is teff, which is their super grain that is grown throughout Ethiopia, that is very popular in foods, even outside of Ethiopia. But it really is an amazing crop that they use to help with their food insecurity and just nutrition overall. So that's something that we've learned about over in Ethiopia. There's another crop called cowpea, which is a drought tolerant crop from the bean family that they grow in Kenya, especially in drought impacted areas. So that's something we've learned about as well. And of course, NSAID. That's the big one that we learned about that we didn't know beforehand.
So you're learning some stuff as well.
Oh, every day. And that's the beautiful thing when you come in with the posture of learning and humility, is that you're always learning, because communities are so rich with knowledge and experience. Yeah.
So tell us about the agroforestry. What's that, the initiative?
Oh, yeah. So our agroforestry initiative is essentially this idea of taking indigenous crops like NSAID and pairing those with coffee, as an example, and woody or fruit trees. So agroforestry is this combination of agricultural crops as well as forests. So like big, taller, woody trees, and basically training farmers to grow those together, because together it provides this ecosystem that actually heals the environment, sequesters carbon, and provides a sustainable food source for communities. So it's actually a big push across agricultural organizations right now to support farmers to plant more agroforestry systems versus just fruit trees or just coffee or just vegetable gardens. So it's this combination of like intercropping that we are supporting. And so we're hoping to launch something like that. We're fundraising for it currently in Ethiopia to trial it, an agroforestry project with NSAID at the center. Yeah.
And people can find all this on your website, correct?
Yes, all of our programs are there with all the information, a lot of photos, and so you can see communities up close and learn about their story.
So is there something that you would like us to know about the Alabaster International that we might not know about?
I think I would say we're unique in that our superpower is our proximity. So it's the fact that we are a smaller NGO, so we can be agile, we can get close to communities. Oftentimes we go to places that other NGOs don't go or can't go, and we're often the first to go because we are this agile team that has this mentality of whatever it takes, no matter the cost, to get to communities that we are called to serve. And so that proximity is something you get when you partner with Alabaster. Like, we know children by name. I know the women and the mothers we work with by name. They're not just like a mass of people. They're people that we've seen grown up. They're communities that we've walked with over decades. And so that closeness is what is unique about who we are. And so when people, like, whether people come to volunteer with us on the ground, which we do take volunteers, and then, or if you give financially or in other ways to us, you are getting that close-knit relationship with communities via our work. And that's really special about who we are. And we're really proud of that, because proximity takes time. And it doesn't always lead to huge numbers on an annual report, right? Because we're taking more time to get to know people and listen versus just doing soft touches with our programs just to inflate numbers. And again, there's no condemnation to folks that have big numbers. That's amazing. It's just different from who we are and what we do. Yeah.
I think you're making a bigger impact because you're not worrying about that big look, right? You're getting like, you're joining the communities, them by name. You're not just coming in and saying you're just a person. You're just like, you're not, we got 10 women, we got 14 kids, but you actually know the names of them. Is there one story that has stood out to you in the time that you've done this that you could share with us?
Yeah, I would say when we first started working in Kenya and in Donyo Lasho, we had just opened our clinic that I mentioned in 2015. And there was a young mother that came very frantically to our clinic, to the newly opened clinic. And the baby had burns all across her body. She had accidentally fallen into a hot pot of tea. And the mom was just, distraught. And luckily we had our team of doctors still there, and we were actually packing up to leave. It was our last day of clinic, and luckily we were still there. And of course we did the wound dressing, we gave antibiotics, but we knew the baby wouldn't survive if she didn't go into the hospital. And so we pooled our resources and we got a motorbike to go to the nearest hospital, which otherwise would have taken 15 hours to go to an inpatient hospital. And so and now we actually have our own motorbike. So this is, so the community has this all the time. But anyway, we were so concerned for her well-being and her overall survival. And her name is Timotoi, and I'm sharing that with permission because she's given me that permission, her family. And we've heard the next day that, she was still alive. But then we kept going to Kenya. We go once or twice a year and with our team, and we didn't see her again. And the Maasai tribe, which is the tribe she's from, does move around. So they're nomadic. So that made sense. And then, a few years ago, I think it was 2022, I was in Ndoni Lasho. We were running a clinic in the school, and all of a sudden this bright-eyed young girl starts to get my attention. And I couldn't get her because when she came to us as a baby, she was very young. She was, I think, probably like 9 months. And here was this young girl kind of like playing peekaboo with me. And Maasai children are all often very shy. So this was kind of an anomaly. And I called her over and I asked, hey, what's your name? And she said, oh, I'm Timotoi. And it turns out she's thriving now. She has no scars. She's super healthy. She's going to school. Actually, one of our partners is sponsoring her now to go to school. And it was just this beautiful moment, this full circle moment of, the little that we could do and support. It really changed and saved this young girl's life. And now she's doing so well. And to see that, it's just a powerful reminder of why we do this work and the importance of it. So we often do a lot of our healthcare programs in honor of people like Timotoi.
Oh my goodness. And that's a beautiful name.
Okay, yes, I think so too.
I love that name. That name is unique. I like unique names. So Shannon, what final message would you like to leave everybody with today? And again, shout out for the gala and do that, and then just fill out your website for the audio listeners.
Yeah, so www.alabasterinternational.org is our website. And I would say, to close, I would want to leave with a message of hope. I think right now, is particularly with humanitarian work, community development, there's just a lot of really hard things happening around the world. And there's also just been a global decrease of funding and support for vulnerable communities. And I think that, but the truth is, when we come together, like forums like what you do, bringing us together in these beautiful ways, and when we join hands, anything is possible. Like sometimes we've forgotten that, like, hope is still available, possibility is still available when we come together as a community. And so what I want to say is join hands, whether it's with us or your local your communities that are doing work for vulnerable communities, whoever that you may feel called to. Let's join hands, because when we join hands, anything is possible, and their hope will always be available to us, and by proxy for the communities that we are called to serve.
Absolutely. And we've learned so much. There's so many incredible people out there that nobody is even noticing until we have them at the tea time table. And then everybody's like, Miss Liz, how did you find them? They found me, guys. It's the universe. The universe does the work. That's all it is.
Love that.
So Shannon, if the world could learn one lesson from your journey, what would it be?
For my personal journey, I would say rejection is not doesn't have the final say. Honestly, all of this Alabaster and the work that's been over the last 14 years came out of rejection, right? I mean, I was at a crossroads, rejected from medical school, didn't know what I was going to do. And out of that was birthed this whole new thing that I didn't even know was possible. And so I would say, a closed door is never the final answer, the final say. So that's a life lesson for me. Yeah.
And what legacy do you hope Alabaster International will leave for future generations?
I hope that every community that we are in and we serve, the women in that community are empowered to lead and to help their families and their communities thrive, that they are given their rightful place in communities to nurture and to foster hope and possibility.
And one more shout out for that gala. Tell us what's going to be happening at the gala, if you can give us some little Easter eggs.
Yeah, so Etched is the name of our gala. We'll have live cultural entertainment. We're going to have an Ethiopian coffee ceremony to honor Ethiopian culture. We'll have amazing cocktails and appetizers. We're going to have a premiere of our mini documentary about NSET. There will be a silent auction, and just a lot of times of storytelling and just beauty, really. There'll be an African marketplace where you'll get to experience what it's like to be in an African market. There'll be crafts that the women have made for sale and for just to be able to experience that, and a photo gallery as well. So there'll be a lot of interactive things to do, really flipping the script on a traditional gala. And instead of doing a sit down table, we're making it more interactive, where it's experiential. So we're really excited to have people there.
And are you looking for any sponsors or anything for the gala?
Yes, we still are. We always are love to have sponsors. There's a lot of sponsor benefits that come from being a sponsor. That's also on the website with a whole page on what sponsors would get. But yes, we would love to have sponsors who would want to come and support or give products or support financially. Yeah.
And how much are the tickets?
Tickets, general admission is $100 per person. And then we have some other tiers that go up in price, but $100 is our general admission. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Awesome. Well, I really had a good time talking with you tonight and having everybody join in and ask the questions, because I could not do this without all of you guys. We all work as a team and we all make a difference in sharing these incredible teas out there. So I'm just going to do a quick recap of what tonight's tea time was, and we'll be back on Monday and Tuesday. And then Miss Liz is taking a break for 2 weeks. I'll be back only on the 25th and 27th. So stay tuned for that. So there is a 2-week break for Miss Liz in August. So what a powerful and inspiring conversation we have shared tonight. Shannon, thank you for bringing your compassion, leadership experience, and global perspective to the tea time table. Tonight's conversation reminded us that healthier communities are not created by one solution alone. They are built through access, education, partnership, food security, healthcare, and the leaders who are willing to listen before they act. Through your work with Alabaster International, you have shown sustainable change happens when communities are not treated simply as recipients of help, but as partners in creating their own stronger futures. We explored healthcare, humanitarian services, resilience, leadership, and the importance of designing solutions that can continue long after the initiative's support has ended. One of tonight's greatest takeaways is this: the strongest form of service is not doing everything for people. It is helping to create the conditions where people and communities can continue growing for themselves. Shannon, your journey reminds us that leadership rooted in compassion can cross cultures, borders, and circumstances. When expertise is combined with humility and genuine human connection, even complex challenges can become opportunities for collaboration and lasting progress. As we close tonight's tea time, I'd like to leave everyone with this thought. What would change if we measured success not by how much help we provided, but by how much strength, knowledge, and opportunity remained after we left? That is the difference between temporary relief and lasting impact. Shannon, thank you for showing us that it means to turn compassion into action and action into stronger communities. Until next time, continue serving with purpose, continue building pathways towards resilience, and continue sharing real life tea, truth, experience, and awareness, one community at a time. And tonight's takeaway from Miss Liz is true humanitarian leadership is not about arriving with all the answers. It is about listening, collaborating, and helping communities build the tools, confidence, and support they need to create a healthier future from within. And I'll see everybody and next week, and we'll do it all over again.